It's that time of year again. You have to leave the grill, come back into the house, and start cooking. Back to school again today on Let's Cook. Hi, welcome to Let's Cook, where we are doing back to school again. Now, when you think about back to school, you know, the summer, you're at the beach, you're in the backyard, you're in the mountains, you're grilling. Well, everybody, you know, we get structure back into our life when we go back to school. And that's what today's menu is all about. But it's also a very nice menu. Let me just go over the menu. We're doing a yellow pea soup. Then we're doing a hot and spicy pork and mushrooms over orzo. Now, the orzo is even flavored with mushrooms. Then we're doing a chili salmon with soy. These are basically kind of somewhat upscale, except for the split pea soup, but they're also things that are done relatively easy and quickly, as you'll see now. The first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and make our yellow pea soup. Now, for the yellow pea soup, let me just go over the ingredients that we're using in the yellow pea soup, because it's like a green pea soup, only it's yellow pea. So we have our yellow peas, and of course, we're using some onions, celery, and carrots, a little bit of chicken stock plus water. So we don't want it to be too salty. Then we're using some fat back, ham steak, a bay leaf, a little bit of tomato, and vinegar just at the very end, just to give it that essence. So the first thing that I'm going to do is actually work with the fat back here. Now, I have a little piece of fat back right here. And on the fat back, usually there's a piece of skin right here. And you can buy the fat back in your supermarket, and you can actually freeze it. Freezes very well. We'll get rid of that skin. Then what we'll do is we'll cut it down into thin strips like this. Now, if I was going to use this fat back, let's say to put into a piece of meat or something, this would actually be called a lardon, L-A-R-D-O-N-S. But we just take our fat back here and we dice this up. Now, it's a good idea, if you don't have too sharp a knife, to freeze the fat back a little bit, because it gives it a little bit of a firmer texture and it's a little easier to chop up. So we'll take our fat back right now into the pan. Now, this stays in the soup, so you don't want your pan too hot. So I'm just going to put my pan on here, and then into this pan, just to speed it along a little bit, put a little bit of olive oil. And we're going to let this fat back just render a little bit. Now, while this is rendering, remember, it's a soup. It all goes together, and the fat back is here for flavor. So let's let that render a little bit, and I can talk about my yellow peas right here. Now, what I did with my yellow peas here, even though these are split, is I took them to speed up the cooking process, and I soaked them, and I picked through them first, and I soaked them in a little bit of warm water just to soften them up and speed up the cooking time. And you can do that. That's called a quick soak. I just feel sorry for the person that has to split all these yellow peas in half. I think that would be a very difficult job. So we have our fat back here. It's rendering. Now, if the pan starts to get real hot like this, go ahead. Add your onions, carrots, and celery, all at the same time. That's called mirepoix, which really means vegetables for flavor. And so we saute this off right here. Then I'm going to go ahead and add the ham right to this. Let this start just to cook off just a little bit here. Get that flavor of the ham in there too. You can have that ham at the end too, but I like to put it in right now. So my ham now, simply take our peas, and I take them away from the liquid that I soaked them in. Have my peas right here. And I'm not worried about the starch that I'm going to lose. Then I add my liquid, my stock, and my water. Now, think about a 3-to-1 ratio, which means you need 3 times as much liquid as you have vegetables. So put some liquid in here. I'm going to add a little bit more. We're going to bring this up to simmer. By the end of the show, this soup is going to be totally done. Next item we're making is an orzo. And this is a mushroom flavored orzo. And this is actually to go with our pork. So the first thing I'm going to do to get the orzo going is turn on my pan, and I'm using butter with this. So I'm going to go ahead and put the butter in the bottom of the dish here, or pan. Let this start to melt, and then we're actually going to saute the orzo. That's going to give it that nice nutty, buttery flavor. So I add my orzo to this. Now, along with this orzo right here, I'm also going to add some mushroom dust or mushroom powder. Let me show you what that is. Right here, I have 3 different types of mushrooms that I bought in the store that are dried. So these are just all dehydrated. You can also do this in your oven at home, just a nice slow oven here. And then I did is I put them in a food processor and made a mushroom powder or mushroom dust that looks like this. It almost looks like a mushroom flour. Very intense flavor, very delicious, but it's also raw. So now we take our mushroom powder as well. We add this to the orzo. And all we're going to do with the orzo here now is just saute this for about 3 minutes, and then we add boiling water to this. Now, the reason you add boiling water to this or very hot water to this is because if you don't, you're cooling it down, then the water's got to come back up. It's got to come back up to a boil. So in my pot right here, I already have some boiling water. So I'll just take this very hot water here, boiling, and I add it right to the orzo right here, bringing this up to a boil right away. So this will come to a boil right away. See how quickly that came up to a boil right there? Beautiful. We'll let that go ahead and boil. Season that with a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Let that cook. This will take about 10 minutes. We're going to take a little break because, you know, it's back to school again. So when we come back, we're talking delicious, hot and spicy pork and mushrooms over the orzo. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thank you. Hi, welcome back to Let's Cook, where it is back to school. Now, right here, we have our orzo. Now, our orzo is done here, so I can actually just shut this off like this. See how great that looks? The only thing I need to do to finish this is just a little butter in there. Let that butter melt. It's going to give it a shine, enrich that. So we'll leave the butter in there. We'll stir that in there. That's good. Next, we're going to start our pork. Now, to start our pork right here in the pan, I've heated my pan. I'm going to add a little olive oil or safflower oil to that pan. Then I'll take my pork cutlets, which I have right here, and we're going to season these with salt and pepper. So we just season these salt and pepper. And make sure, by the way, that you do them on both sides. I have these gorgeous pork cutlets. And now these are just a thin cut boneless pork chops that you can get in a supermarket. These are about, a 1/3 of an inch thick. They're really nice. So we just have these ready to go. Now these, I'm just going to go ahead and drop these in a pan. When I drop these in a pan, I'm going to drop them this way and let them fall away from me. It's a good thing to know because this way you don't get splashed with the oil. The oil's going to fall that way further away from you. So I'll just drop those in the pan, let them start to sear up. Now, while those are searing up, I have a portobello mushroom right here that I'm also going to use as a base for this. And this portobello mushroom I peeled and I removed the gills from. This is what it would look like. So to remove the gills, you would just take this, pull this off, and then with a spoon, scrape these gills away. And then also peel off the skin this way too. All right, so what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to take this now, drop it into the pan here with a little olive oil. I'm going to season it with a little salt and a little pepper. Then I'm going to hit this with just a little bit of stock. Cover this and let that cook because that's going to go ahead and be a base for my pork with the orzo. Now, while our pork is searing off here, let me go over the ingredients that we're going to use to make the sauce. We're using some cherry peppers, garlic, shallots, mushrooms, tomatoes, a little bit of chicken stock, white wine, chopped parsley, and butter. So now it's a very simple sauce that we're going to make with these. So what I'll do right now is when my pork releases itself from the pan here, I can go ahead and turn this over right here to the front of the pan here. Now, I can't put any liquid in there while the pork is in there, but what I can do is I can take a little bit of shallot Again, this is somewhat of a rustic sauce, so I'll just take a little bit of shallot right here. I'm going to start with the shallot on this side of the pan there, so that doesn't burn. I also will take a little bit of my chili right here. You can use, this is just a little bit of habanero, but very hot and spicy, so I just want a little bit of that in here. And let that start to just saute while my pork finishes cooking. Let's take a look at our portobello mushroom now. Well, this is going right here. Okay, it's starting to soften up here. Just going to turn this over now. Let that continue to cook until all the chicken stock is reduced down. Coming back over to my pork here. My pork is now ready to come out, so I'm just going to remove this pork and get my sauce going. First thing I'm going to do, a little bit of white wine. Deglaze the pan. Now, while that's deglazing and cooking down, now I'm just going to add my garlic to this. The garlic we're just going to very thinly slice and add now, because otherwise it would have burnt. So we have that going in there. When the wine is cooked, then we're going to add our sauce to that. We also have some tomatoes to this. So just take our tomato right here. I only need about a half of a tomato for this, so I'll take it this way. Then I'll take my knife, I'll bring it down this way, almost like I'm cutting an onion. So you can just make sure you have a nice sharp knife to do this. Take our tomato, we'll dice this up. Again, remember we have some real nice heat going in there. Now my tomato goes in along with my mushrooms. Now the mushrooms are going to leach out, or they're going to let a little bit of moisture come out, but you can see my pan is almost dry here. So now what I'm going to do is just hit this with a little bit of stock, just to deglaze the pan here, get those mushrooms going. So my sauce is working. Let's go over here because I can hear my mushroom right here. Remember when I said it was going to be dry? Liquid's nice and dry. Perfect. Now we'll just take a little splash here of stock, just to deglaze that and stop the cooking process. Perfect. So that's good to go. My orzo is good to go. My pork is right here. This is good to go. We're almost ready to plate this up. So right here off of my plate here, I'm just going to go ahead, add any liquid here that came out of my pork. Let's put the pork on the side here just for a second. Wipe off our plate because we're ready to plate. So first thing, we take our portobello mushroom right here. And we'll take a little bit of our mushroom flavored orzo. You know, you have to love mushrooms for this particular dish. A little bit of the orzo here. And then our sauce for the pork. We need to add our parsley to this. A little bit of butter to enrich this. This is good to go. Then we'll take our pork cutlet right here. Now, I do have one surprise for you before I finish this sauce. I don't know if you've ever seen fresh lychees. These are fresh lychees which are available right now. And they're beautiful. And all you do is you take and you peel off the skin. And this is what you end up with. It's a beautiful, nutty, sweet flavor. So I'm just going to take 2 half lychees here. And that's going to go on top of the pork. So we just warm those lychees. One here. And this is just kind of a surprise. One here. And then we'll just take a little bit of our sauce right here. Right on top of the pork. Out of this world. Very simple. You know, everybody gets a little tired when it's back to school. Traffic increases. You get more structure to your life. And that's exactly what we're going to do when we come back. We're going to take a salmon steak and give it some real structure. Back to school again. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Let's Cook, and it's back to school again. Now we're ready to do our salmon. Now our salmon, I have a beautiful salmon right here. Isn't this gorgeous? And to this, I'm going to actually make steaks. So to make the steaks, you're, you know, where you buy your fish, the person will probably do this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut through here just till I get to the middle bone right here. Then I need to bang this just to go through that bone. And you want to bang this relatively quickly to get through that bone so that you don't mess up the fillet. Then we can go through the rest of the fillet right there. So now I have a beautiful salmon steak here. Now, with the salmon steak, the first thing that I'm going to do is I have some chili right here. So I'm just going to take the chili right here. Now, this would be chipotle chilies, okay, which are jalapeno chilies that have been smoked. And I'm just going to coat this on both sides with this, along with a little bit of salt here and a little bit of pepper on both sides. Then we're going to crust this with pepita seeds. Now, pepita seeds are pumpkin seeds. This is what they look like. See, we have our pumpkin seeds right here. And all I did with my pumpkin seeds is I took my pumpkin seeds with some cumin. I put it in my coffee grinder right here, and I ground it up until it was a powder. So we'll take this right here, put this right in here. So we have the pepitas here, and I'm going to put a little bit more cumin in here. And I'm also going to, at this time, just add a little bit more of our dried chipotles here. Now we take this mixture right here, beautiful, and we press our salmon into it on both sides. So you press the one side this way, the one side this way. Now, while that's sitting there, I have my pan. It's been warming up here. I'm going to add a little bit of oil to this. Beautiful. I need a little bit more oil there. Just a little bit more. That's good. Take this now. And we're going to start to sear this. So just drop this in there. We're going to let that start to cook. It's going to get nice and crunchy, and then we're going to actually finish it in the oven. If I tried to cook it all the way in the pan right here, not finish it in the oven, it would never cook all the way through. So let's get this out of the way here, put my salmon over here, and go over and take a look at our pea soup. Pea soup is simmering right here. Now, and you can see all the great colors here. Looks fabulous. So this is about 3/5 of the way done. It's almost all the way done here. What I would do now at this point in time is I would go ahead and add my tomatoes to this and let it continue to simmer till it's all the way done. I'm not going to be pureeing this soup because I have the ham in the soup already. So all I'm going to do is let it cook till the yellow peas are almost dissolving, and then serve it, finishing with a little bit of vinegar. So my pea soup is still going there. My salmon is now ready to turn. So now I'll take my salmon, turn this over right now. Once I've turned it over and it's nice and crunchy like that, I'm going to pop this in a 350-degree oven. Let this finish cooking. We're going to take a little break. Then when we come back, I'll show you how we finish this lovely sauce to go with this delicious salmon steak. Back to school again. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Let's Cook, where it's back to school again. We're going to get this salmon out of the oven here now. That's why I love this pan here, because it has the metal handle, so I'm able to take it out in and out of the oven. But you need to be careful to make sure that you don't burn yourself. Now we'll just take our salmon steak right here. We'll take this, we'll set it up on the plate here. Now we're going to make a little sauce to go with this. So what I'll do is I'll pour off the majority of the oil here, leaving just a little bit behind. To this now, I'm going to deglaze this with some soy sauce here, equal amounts of soy sauce and water. Just swirl this together. We don't want our sauce to be too salty. Then we add our basil and chives to this. This sauce is now done. That's how simple it is. No butter in this. Want it to be a little healthy. And this goes right on top of our salmon right here. Out of this world. Oh, that works for me. So we have our pork with the mushrooms and the orzo. We have our salmon done. Now it's time to dish up our soup. So the soup here, you can see how this soup kind of tightened up here. It's beautiful. The yellow peas are nice and tender. The ham is there. The tomatoes are recognizable because we added them towards the end. The only thing that I did while we were on break is I took a little bit of vinegar, tasted it, add the vinegar to it, because what that vinegar does is it brings all the flavors together. Kind of gives it that balance that you need You know, the balance you need when you go back to school. Exactly. So just remember, everybody's back in school. Get back into the kitchen and enjoy cooking again. You have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.